What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Opinionated Off-Topic. Today I'm with Carlos Mojica, co-founder of Opinionated Media. I'm Cam Theory. We're with Jackson Mitchell, owner, creator of the Walk On podcast, Walk On Mentality newsletter. Works out a ton, does a lot of collaborative working out content in the Austin area. So excited to get him on. And the first time I actually met him was a while ago. I think it was when the collective North first opened. We talked in the locker room briefly, but I was in the sauna with your girlfriend for 20, 25 minutes, and I was just talking to her, and then that's when you were shooting the videos for Kane, you were getting in the sauna, getting out the cold plunge and stuff like that. So
that was him.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then he obviously Austin Suter is the boy, so he had posted podcast, and I listened to it because I was I haven't talked to Austin in a while, curious what he's up to. It was your podcast, listened to that, and I was like, man, this dude sounds super dope. He's doing similar stuff to us, and then followed you on Instagram, reached out, and then we both were traveling and doing stuff, and then we sat down, got some coffee, and then we talked for a while, a good hour and a half. Yeah. Just very genuine conversation, and then here we are. So yeah, that's how we met. And shout out to the collective again, just meeting some dope people that are, like-minded, and excited to get to know you a little bit more. So
yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's funny, telling my girlfriend that I was going to come get on the show. I'm I'm going on the show with Cam. She's like, who? I'm like, you remember when we were at Collective, you were in the sauna with the guy? She's like, oh yeah, she knew exactly who I was talking about. And yeah, man, just shout out to the Collective. Shout out to Austin, Texas, really too. I know y'all are both locals, but for me, been down here just over a year and a half, and the number of people who I've met, connected with, who are similar and doing just awesome stuff is astoundingly high. So shout out to you guys for this platform. I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate y'all for having me.
Thank you for taking the time out your day. Also dope, man. It's a lot of individuals doing the same thing that we're doing, and it's one of the few cities where everybody's down to just ride with everybody and help everybody. There's not many people that we ran into that just, I'm like, no, fuck you, I'm doing this myself.
Right.
So Austin's been great. It's been fun. But just get a little backstory where you're from. Just found out you aren't from Austin, so
yeah.
It's where it all started.
Yeah, man. Y'all keep me on point because I can ramble forever. But I grew up in the DFW Metroplex in a city called South Lake. Moved there when I was 10. Before that, my family was in Boston for a very short period of time, Las Vegas, and I was actually born in Alaska. My parents were both military, so they were stationed up in Alaska, and that's where I was born. But moved to Texas at 10, immediately got into playing football. As y'all know, Texas high school football is it's like a religion here. So started playing football at 10, went to South Lake.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Carroll or South Lake?
Yeah, man. I went to South Lake. We won state my junior year. A lot of really phenomenal experiences there. Just, a great public school. And I think South Lake at times gets a bad rap. But as I look back on my experience, I'm super grateful to have grown up there, had the experiences that I had, met the people that I did. It's a good city. And so, yeah, a lot of gratitude there. And we can deep dive as much as y'all want as I go. But from there, went to SMU in Dallas, played football at SMU, played outside linebacker. As far as the walk-on mentality, that mentality was born in the time that I transitioned from high school to college. Now, it really was born before that, but I walked on at SMU and then ultimately ended up playing all 4 years, got put on scholarship after my second season, became a starter my third season, and finished my career as a captain. So,
nice.
Had a great career there, learned a lot, and then started the professional journey.
Here we are.
Yeah, so it's been a fun ride, man. I've learned a ton, and I'll probably say this a million times throughout the show, but just so much gratitude for everything I've experienced, even the things that I maybe didn't love in the moment. Yeah. Ultimately everything that we experience gets us to where we are now.
Yeah.
So being able to look back on those things with a sense of there's value in that, even if it sucked in the moment, is super important.
Hindsight's always 20/20. That's kind of what I've learned recently. Just everybody's gonna have the highs, everybody's gonna have the lows. It's just part of life. It's a roller coaster.
For sure.
How was it for you as a kid? Just always constantly moving, starting in Alaska, going to Boston, going to New York, Vegas, and all this stuff. How was it as a kid for you?
Yeah. Honestly, man, I loved it. Like I loved everywhere that we lived while we lived there. And, you know, as far as what I really remember, I don't remember much from Alaska, just from pictures that I see from my childhood. Vegas, I wouldn't necessarily want to raise a family there. However, I had a great time. We lived in a nice area. I went to a private Christian school. I think my parents were like, we don't want our kids in the public school system in Vegas. And especially toward the time that we left, I think crime was getting a little bit higher. And so never had any issues there, though. I mean, certainly I have the memories of, you know, being the kid on the playground and my boxers were sticking out the bottom of my shorts. So I'm like hiding because I don't want to get laughed at. But nothing that was, you know, too crazy sticks out in my mind from growing up in Vegas. Same thing for Boston. Like moved to Boston. Thought the snow was the coolest thing ever. Loved to be outside. Still love to be outside. And we were only there for 8 months. And I think the biggest thing I noticed when we moved to Texas was the people were just so nice. I remember being in my front yard as like a 10-year-old kid, neighbors driving by and they're waving. And I'm thinking like, who are these strangers waving at me? But you come to find out that in the South, that's just how people are.
Southern hospitality.
Yeah, exactly. So I never had any issues with the moves that we made. I think some people move around a lot, and that can certainly have an impact on you, just from not necessarily feeling like you have a home in some capacities. But for me, I think my family is tremendously important to me. And, you know, my parents, they just did a good job. And so although we moved a handful of times, it never really felt like some horrible experience.
Yeah, because you mean you're growing up, you just make friends, and it's like, oh, I gotta make more friends. It's like, oh, I gotta make friends again.
Right.
It's tough, man. Especially just making friends, because it's like, man, it might have been. I guess for people who move, it's kind of easier, just because it makes you have to go make friends, and it makes you communicate and talk to people.
Right.
So that's like the positive out of it. But at the time, like I was saying, we said earlier, hindsight 2020, you just don't think about it like that.
Yeah.
You're just like, man, I gotta make more friends, and you just made for like in Boston, you made friends. You only been there 8 months, not even a year, and you could have been your bestest friend out of all the places you lived in. It's like, now I gotta leave.
Yeah, I will admit that one was quick, and I was pretty upset when my dad was like, hey, I think we're gonna move to Texas. But I will say too, to the topic of making friends, like playing sports, you immediately are ingrained into people who are like you. They're the same age, have similar interests, obviously, if they're playing the sport. Now, granted, of course, there's kids whose parents made them play, but for the most part, if you're on a sports team, you're surrounded by people who are like you, and that there's definitely value in that. But yeah, I guess now that I think about it, the move from Boston to Texas, I was like, man. But again, hindsight 2020, like Texas.
Or Air Force?
My mom was in the Air Force. She retired after 26 years, lieutenant colonel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, real deal.
That's nice.
Yeah, savage. And then my pops, he was in the Army just for 4 years. He joined the Army to put himself through college. And funny enough, I had an offer from the Air Force Academy to go play, but I just really wasn't dead set on the service aspect. And I feel like if you're going to take that path, you really got to be bought into it, because otherwise it's a huge commitment. And I've seen people who, you know, go to the academy and then maybe transfer out, or, you know, there's just the simple fact that if you go play at an academy, you have to pay back that service. So you're bought in for at least 4 years. So ultimately, you know, that was part of the reason I decided to end up walking on at SMU.
Is there college in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that was one of the things that was most important to me in figuring out where I wanted to go to college. Was I wanted a campus that was beautiful to my eyes, because I was going to have to be on it every day. And it's hilarious because in high school, I can think of probably 4 times that we played at SMU's stadium in the playoffs, but I never noticed the campus until it was time for me to figure out where I wanted to go, and actually took a campus visit, and come to find out SMU's campus is pretty beautiful too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice
Highland
area.
Park,
It's not a bad area.
There's no shortage of bread.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just playing, you being there, a lot of kids just like, oh, unless it's like a bigger school like Texas, a lot of kids like, oh, I don't want to play at SMU, I want to go play, or I want to move away from home. You never felt like that, or you just wanted to play football, you didn't care where?
No, you know, honestly, I had this vision of what big time football was, like big time D1, and I think at the time, it was just something bigger than the Air Force Academy. You know, I played defense, and like the offense at the Air Force Academy is a triple option. That's an offense where it's kind of tough to score. You just don't view like the Air Force Academy as this prolific team. Now, I say that as if SMU was viewed as some prolific team at the time, but really my decision to go to SMU was, A, I knew I was going to have an opportunity to really make a name for myself. B, it was a bigger time school. C, I knew the education was phenomenal. And then D, it was really nice to be 30 to 35 minutes away from home, especially my freshman year, because I kind of had a tough period transitioning from, being at home, having everything kind of situated for me, to being in college and really having to figure things out for myself. Like my freshman year, I remember there was one week in particular where I was just like down bad. And my parents like drove out to the city, brought Chipotle. And it was so nice to be able to have that flexibility. Honestly, I even would drive home to do my laundry because the dorm room laundry, like the washer and dryers, were just like beat up. So I would just go home and wash my clothes. So it was really nice to have them close. Also, my pops made it to every single game. Mom was at every home game for sure. Like, just there was a lot of benefit in being that close. But I also now, especially now having moved, I think for the people who do make the choice to go somewhere a little bit further away from home, there's so much value in getting outside of your comfort zone at some point. Like, I would say to anybody, if you have an opportunity to get away from where you grew up, even if it's just for a year or two, you should 100% do it, because being away from what you've always known is just going to cause growth. Like, it's a little uncomfortable, but discomfort always leads to growth.
That's the dope thing with him, is he's able to relate. Because I was supposed to go play college ball. I was going to go play baseball, but I ended up tearing my shoulder summer going into it, and that was just the end of my career.
Yeah.
But he was fortunate enough to go play, and he went to Colorado, and so it's all these miles away.
Yep.
It's dope to have at least someone who can relate and touch on the topic of like how it is, the struggles and like the ups and downs and the experiences and whatnot. But I mean, I'll let you touch on that because you just got to experience it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with what you're saying. Just with like the experience of just growing, getting that growth, kind of finding yourself, especially like same way for me, like growing up, I just, parents did well. I had everything I needed, never really struggled, and then go to college and then being 14 hours away. And then, college football, the jump from high school to college is insane. Like, you could train hard, you could work hard, you can be dedicated to the game in high school, but then when you get to college, it's like everyone is good there.
Yeah.
Like everybody, right? Everybody was that guy at their school. Then you got like, the schedule, like fall camp, 6 to 6, 7 days a week. Then you got meetings. Then you got to watch film on top of schoolwork, adjusting. Like, obviously, like you're in college, so you're going to want to party or whatever. So there's like all these distractions. And it's like, I always think it's especially for student athletes, like the ability to balance all that, it's like super important. Yep. And I think it does cause a lot of growth. And some questions I wanted to ask you too, because I figured you like walked on, because like that's the name of like a lot of your branding, but I just thought it was just like the term. But I guess since you like did walk on and stuff, like just what were some of the challenges, especially walking on at like a group of 5, big time group of 5 school, and now like they're going to the ACC. So like
bring that up too.
Yeah. So
they raised off topic, but they raised what, 70 million?
Big bread.
Like a day or something.
Yeah.
Not even that.
Yeah,
and
something
then
crazy.
They raised 70 million.
One of their donors was like, he said 300 million. He's like, it's no big deal. Like,
that's what it was. Like, then somebody gave like, it's crazy.
Yeah, the money at SMU is wild. I mean, I remember just normal students driving Maserati, Lamborghini, for like you name it, you saw it on SMU's campus. So it's no surprise that a booster came forward and was like, "Yeah, I got you."
I mean, most of it is probably tax write-off anyway. So
right. But yeah, man, to answer your question, like, and this is 100% why the brand exists. It's like the walk-on mentality is the mindset that there are no limits to what we can accomplish when we believe in ourselves, but it's also a requirement that you do the work. Because if you believe in yourself but you don't put in the work, then nothing's going to happen for you. And if you don't believe in yourself, then you're probably not going to do the work, period. So they have to exist together. And for me, coming in, not recruited, no scholarship, it was like, I'm going to do everything in my power to set myself apart from my teammates and to show that I belong here. And not only do I belong here, but like I'm one of the guys here.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm going to do everything I can. And when you're coming in as a walk-on, like even if you're a preferred walk-on, which I was, like you gotta show them every single day that you have that in you and that you deserve to be there. And what that looks like is, at least in my case, was, you know, being the first one there, being the last one to leave, you know, doing everything I possibly could right from the standpoint of like watching extra film, being in this training room, doing extra reps on the weekend, whether it be 7-on-7. One thing that sticks out to me early on at SMU is like the culture was pretty bad and nobody was doing anything really extra to try to set us apart from the other teams in the conference. And I remember there was a select group of us who would go to the rec center on the weekends and get in the sand volleyball court and do like footwork drills and stuff like that. But what I envisioned for college football was that like everybody's going to be trying to be at the top of their game. And that just simply wasn't how it was early on at SMU. It changed later, but when I got there, it was like, man, like this can't be college football. But yeah, in terms of like challenges, it's just like literally doing the stuff that nobody wants to do. Like saying, like volunteering for the drill that nobody wants to volunteer for, volunteering to run down on scout team kickoff, rep after rep after rep. Nobody wants to do that, but you're a walk-on, so you got to do it. Like people refer to freshmen and walk-ons as the tackling dummy when they first get on campus. And like, that's really what it is. Like you just got to be ready to do the brunt work and be whatever the staff or the seniors or whoever is telling you they need you to be for that point in time. And so, you know, it requires a level of humility to realize like, hey, I'm not above that. Like I got to do that. This is part of the journey. This is part of the process. But it also requires a desire to, again, prove yourself and to earn a spot on the team, really, like earn some playing time. Like that requires work. And so, yeah, there were certainly challenges, but it's like you walk into that knowing that this is what I signed up for and this is what it's going to take. And frankly, if you're not willing to do that stuff, then you probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, just because I almost walked on to Tulsa and UTSA, so just kind of comprehending that too, and then just taking that risk too, because that's like such a big time decision. Obviously, committing to a school is such a big decision at that point in time, but then not only did you commit somewhere, but you committed somewhere knowing that you were going to have to outwork people just to even get a chance to get on the field. And then once you're on the field, there's a ton of walk-ons that we're going to look on Saturday. We're going to watch a ton of people play college football. There's a ton of walk-ons starting that don't even have scholarships yet. So it's like, all right, you're on the field. Now you got to get this scholarship. And then once that all rolls in. So I guess once you were able to solidify yourself as being one of the guys on the team, earning a scholarship, becoming a 2-year starter, kind of just what were some of your highs and lows of playing college football at that level? Yeah,
actually, before I dive into that, I'll touch on exactly what you just said, which is that was for sure one of the most challenging things about it is like feeling like I'm putting in the work, I'm grinding, I've earned this, right? But not getting that result. And I've talked about this on podcasts before, but it's knowing that in the football context, in the career context, in very many various areas of your life, there are going to be times when you put in all the work in the world and you still don't get the result that you want. And you got to be okay with that. You still got to be willing to do the work regardless. And so, I mean, the first, like looking at my career there, I played as a true freshman. Like I sat out the first game of the season and then I played every single game that year on special teams. Wow. But like off top, I'm like, man, like I can play D1 football. Like, I'm here. I'm really doing this. And ultimately, I almost quit after that because I was so beat down. I was like, man, I'm doing this for free. Like, this is crazy. And thank God I didn't. Like, I'm so thankful for my linebacker coach because I told him, I was like, man, I don't know about this. And he was like, just think about it. And obviously, I ended up continuing to play. But for the first 2 years of my career, I'm like, look, I'm grinding in the workouts. I'm a leader on the team. I've established myself as somebody that brings the team together and lifts people up. Not only am I doing things right off the field, but like I'm making plays, like everything is lining up to where I feel like I should have a scholarship and I don't. And there's just frustration that comes with that. It's like, man, what? How is that possible? But again, like I said, in life, sometimes you'll do everything right and it's still not going to end up your way. But yeah, so I forget what was your question. Some of my lessons learned.
Yeah. Just what were some of your? Go ahead.
Oh, just what are the highs and lows you had?
Yeah, and the
playing
highs and
football?
lows of playing in college.
Man, I would say definitely, you know, at the end of my freshman year, body was super worn down. And the moment of like, do I really want to do this? That's certainly a low point because, you know, I don't view myself as a quitter. And so to really think that I was really seriously considering just walking away from such an impactful experience, you know, hindsight being 2020, like one of the most powerful and impactful things I've ever done that's so well equipped me for life. The thought of walking away from that is crazy. And so, but that was definitely a low point. And then you have, after my sophomore year, the entire coaching staff got fired. And so it went from this staff has seen me grind for 2 years. They know what I bring to the table. They know how I play. This is going to be my opportunity to get a scholarship. They all get fired. And it's like, man, on one hand, it's like, okay, clean slate. I have another opportunity, which that's the right mindset is like, no matter what happens to you, you can find the silver lining. You can find a positive way to look at it. And that's incredibly important. But in that moment, it's like, well, now I got to start over and try to show them that I deserve a scholarship. So, you know, in anything in life, you can view it however you want to view it. However you decide to view it, that's going to be a reality. So looking at things from the positive is super important. But I would be lying if I said that wasn't a moment of like, dang, you know, what now? Ultimately, ended up getting put on scholarship after that year, so that's great. But you know what I'm failing to mention too is like we were trash. Like we were 5-7 my first year, very close to going to a bowl game. But my second season, we were 1-11. We didn't win a game until the last game of the season. So all year we're just getting waxed, game after game after game. And so when you couple just losing all year, keep in mind I came from a state championship winning high school to a losing college football program where I'm not on scholarship, where I'm not starting. You know, not to say that I'm entitled to any of that, but it was just such a stark difference. So that in itself was tough. I'm like, dang, we're taking L's every week. And ultimately we ended up winning the last game of the year, and that was amazing. But it's like, dang, we were 1-11. And then new staff comes in. That, you know, that offseason was insane, which for me personally, I love, like, what I miss most about my experience playing college football was summer workouts, winter workouts, fall camp. Like, I love the grind. I still love the grind to this day. I love the process. I feel like I'm at my best when I'm ingrained in a process, working toward a goal, and I'm just committed to it and getting through the suck, and I'm just like, I'm going for it. Like, that's where I feel like I thrive. And so I used to love all that kind of stuff, especially too, because like that always gave me the opportunity to like bring people with me. Like, nah, let's eat. Like, let's go. So my third year, we were 2-10. So again, like just getting waxed. And it was crazy because after my third season, the off season leading into my senior year, we had T-shirts that we had to wear every single day that on the front said 63-0 because our last game of the season, my junior year, we got beat 63-0 by Memphis. So our shirt said 63-0, and the back said 2-10, never again. So honestly, like, you know, it's kind of embarrassing when you put that shirt on and look at yourself in the mirror every day and you're like, dang, we were trash. And of course, you know, it's a motivational tactic, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of a low point that you're digging yourself out of. And ultimately, I feel like from that junior year to the senior year, and really during that junior year too, we made a lot of really good changes in the culture and shifted the culture. My senior year, we were 5-7. And I think SMU's made it to a bowl game, had at least 8 wins every year since. So my belief is that my senior class and like that team really did shift the culture and get the program headed back in the right direction. But I didn't play in a bowl game. I ain't got no gifts. So, you know, there were certainly low moments. You know, I also dealt with not really any serious injuries, but my senior year particularly, I had a different bump or bruise that was like serious enough to keep me out of practice during the week. I had one every week for the first 7 weeks of the season. And I got to a point where I was like, this is my last year. Like, I don't care. Like, I might as well just send it if I get hurt.
Yeah.
At least I left it all on the table.
Yeah.
But all that to say, we we were, not awesome. And then, sorry, you got to. My bad.
Finish, yeah.
Hopefully you can edit that. Anyway, we were 5-7 that senior year, and that's still not a winning record. But the reality is, when I look back on that experience, everything that I've taken from the losing seasons, the hard off seasons, the challenges, the ups and downs, like it's all been useful and impactful and prepared me for life after sports, which I think there's so much value in playing a team sport.
I'm glad you brought that up because we've said it on another podcast before, but just playing sports in general, no matter if it's at a high level or not, at least through high school, it just teaches you so much. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to control your emotions, deal with emotions. It teaches you how to be mentally strong, especially for a sport like mine in baseball. I was a pitcher. I mean, it's probably one of the hardest mentally strong positions to play. Just if you're throwing balls, you're getting hit, someone hit up, like it's hard.
Yep.
So it just bounces you off your game, and it just the brotherhood and camaraderie you build as well. So I've always wondered why some parents don't let their kids play sports. Some people don't watch sports just because it just teaches you so much about life in general. The biggest thing, it teaches you how to compete, and it teaches you how to take criticism.
And just take losses too, because like life is just full of highs and lows, full of wins, full of losses. It's like how you respond, how you bounce back. Like, and that was kind of leads me to another question, which we're gonna get into. You have a podcast, Walk On Mentality, your newsletter as well. Actually, been looking at your website. Very nice website, by the way. Nice and constructed. But for us, like because we've been doing this for a while, still struggling to make real money, get monetized, things like that. You bust your ass on a video for 10 hours, you put it out, gets 25 views, 30 views, so you're just having to do that over and over again. But I think the reason, at least the reason for both of us is, and even our videographer, like we played sports our whole life, knew how to grind, knew how to take the dubs, knew how to take the L's, and then just like how has that helped you in life, especially like obviously with your career, and then obviously getting into your other avenues. So
yeah, I think it comes down to consistency, man. And it's like the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things in sports that's applicable in every area of your life, is you just got to show up every day and be the absolute best that you can on that day. And some days you're not going to be at the top of your game, but you got to show up with everything you got. And it's the same thing in the podcasting world. It's the same thing in building a business. It's the same thing in your relationship with your significant other. It's the same thing in your, maybe I already said physical health, but it's like in your spiritual walk. Like it's literally across every area of your life. If you can implement consistency, then over time, some good things are going to happen. And so, when I first started the Walk On Mentality podcast, it was in the middle of COVID. The job that I was doing at that time was slow, so I had a lot more time on my hands. I put out like 14 episodes, and then work picked back up, and I just kind of let it fall off. And then at a certain point in time, this fire reignited in me that like, nah, this is part of my calling, and like I need to show up and prioritize this, and continue to do these episodes because the message is powerful and there's people out here who need to hear it. And since then, I've been putting out one episode a week, which, everybody has different cadences, whether it be 2-3 episodes, one episode a week. But for me, one episode a week, one impactful story, that's my cadence, and I'm committed to continue doing that. And frankly, like, it's kind of going to sound funny to say, but I don't really get too caught up in the metrics, because I think something that's really important is being able to detach yourself from the outcome in whatever it is that you're doing. Like, for example, if you're trying to get a promotion at work, detach yourself from that promotion, but do the work like you want the promotion. That way, if you don't get the promotion, you're not just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad and this didn't go my way. But just do the work because it's the right thing to do. It's the same thing with the podcast. For me, it's like, yeah, I could get caught up in, I don't have as many listeners as I want to have, or this post isn't getting as many likes as I want it to get. But really, if I can impact one person with what I'm sharing, that's enough. And I know that over time, if I continue to interview people with stories to share, people with powerful messages, and people continue to need that, then in due time, it's going to be exactly what I've always envisioned it to be. And you can't rush the process. You got to trust the process. So to tie it back to sports, it's like when I didn't have the scholarship, I still was showing up, trying to be the first guy to finish every sprint, trying to be the vocal guy in the weight room, trying to do everything that I could to set myself apart every single day, regardless of whether or not they said, hey, Jackson, we're going to give you a scholarship today. Because it took 2+ years for me to get that scholarship. But if I didn't show up with that consistency every single day, I guarantee I wouldn't have got it. So yeah, consistency is just huge. And, to go back to what you said about the mental game too, with baseball, I actually had a mental performance coach in college who's been a huge inspiration for the work that I do now. It's just like, your mind is so powerful. Like, and I kind of alluded to it, but it's like, when things happen to you, you can either view them as like, oh, this is happening to me, or this is happening for me. If something you view as negative occurs in your life, you can either say, woe is me, this is the worst situation ever, or you can say, what did I learn from this situation, and how can I apply it that's going to help me improve my life? Because whatever you want your reality to be, you can create. You just have to actually go do it. And like, it's kind of cliche, but like, just take action. And if you can consistently take action, even if it's imperfect, then over time, whatever you're building is going to grow to what you want it to be. You just got to keep going.
Yeah. Great how the mind is, though, because it's like you trick yourself on if you feel like you, I don't know, did bad, you're going to trick yourself that you did bad. And you're like, oh, man, I suck. I don't want to do all this and that.
Right.
If you trick yourself you did good, then it's like, man, I killed that, and this is fun and all this and that.
Right.
But it's funny because the perspectives that everybody just has on things, because you're like, speaking of promotion, one of the people at my work is leaving to go get a promotion, and the next position up for my dad is the person that just left. And I texted my mom today, and I was like, is he gonna do it, or does he not feel like he's ready? Because he just moved up. Mm-hmm. But my dad's someone who goes and busts his ass, and like everybody loves him there. And but the reason I bring up perspective is because you detach yourself from the promotion, but still do the work like your promotion. And I was talking to one of my other friends today, and I was like, I hope he does it, just because, one, you get the practice of interviewing and seeing what they want. Two, if you don't get it, you can at least know what they're looking for, and you can start working towards that.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to be able to take negative feedback.
For sure.
So if like, oh, we didn't give it to you because of this, we didn't give it to you because of this, like you have to be able to be coachable and take it and run with that. And so the next time it comes up, you can do that.
Right.
But something else I wanted to ask you, because you've seen from your whole life, you're just positive and strong mentally. How was it for you transitioning post-football and then knowing that, like, I'm not going to the league? Mm-hmm. Like, how was that for you? Because it's hard for athletes. It's over. It's done. Like, I was doing all this, like, yesterday, and now it's all gone.
Yeah. I'll start off by saying I appreciate the compliment on the mental toughness, on the mental strength. I do feel like my mind is one of my most powerful tools, but I would be lying if I said I haven't had moments where I'm like down bad mentally. And so, really just for anybody who listens who might be dealing with a hard time mentally, like, keep going, because you can get out of the rut. There's tools, there's therapy, there's coaching. Like, there's ways that you can overcome whatever you're facing. So keep going. Now, in terms of transitioning from being D1 captain, flag on campus, like, SMU wasn't a big football school, but in certain senses, it was like I was that guy. Like, I went to media day. There were posters of me on campus. I was a captain. Felt like I was that guy. And toward the end of my senior year, actually my second to last game, I hurt my SC joint. And I had a fracture dislocation on my SC joint. And so by the time my senior year ended, I knew I wasn't going to go to the league. And to be honest, I really wasn't that hurt about not doing that. I felt like I had achieved more than I ever thought possible in my college football career. So I was ready to hang up the cleats and kind of move on. That being said, once I did move on, once I did start my professional career and no longer had that identity of like, I'm a football player.
Yep.
I had a tough time. I mean, I remember, it's really funny actually to think about my first job. I remember, walking into this big corporate office and almost feeling like I didn't know how to act. Like I almost felt robotic, trying to be this professional version of me that I had never really been before. Of course, I'd always known how to conduct myself in conversation with people and network and things like that. But starting a job in corporate America was different for me. And, honestly, we kind of touched on it before we started recording, but for the first year and a half after I graduated, some of my habits were trash. I mean, I was training really hard, going to CrossFit every day, most of the, like a lot of days, twice a day. But when the weekend would hit, I was like, I'm going to be the life of the party, and I'm going to channel that, man on the flag, captain energy, like, everything I do, I'm going all in. I'm going to channel that into how I turn up at the party. And so for about a year and a half, I was like buck wild. And then I kind of had a come to Jesus moment where I was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, this is like, who are you? And, all that to say, like the journey of self-discovery, is different for everybody. But for me, really like figuring out who I am, what's my personal mission, what kind of impact do I want to have on this earth? And again, it's tied for me like to my belief in my faith, which, I believe that God gave us all gifts and talents. We all have a purpose that was given to us before we were born. And I believe that our job on this earth is to figure out what that is and then use it to serve other people. But that's not always easy. And sometimes you'll feel like you know what it is, but you're terrified to step into that for whatever reason. And I would say for sure, like I experienced some of that throughout my journey, probably a lot of it actually, if I'm being honest. And so it was tough. And at the same time, like I've had a lot of phenomenal experiences. Like I've been so fortunate to have, again, great family, phenomenal friends. I've had great jobs. Like, I feel so blessed and fortunate for everything that I've experienced, again, because ultimately everything we experience leads us to sit here right now as the people that we are. But yeah, man, it was a tough transition going from big time D1 football player to like, I work in HR at Texas Instruments.
we've never really touched on that either. We always touch about like not identifying as athlete anymore. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if they do at SMU or not. I don't think they did at Fort Lewis. But for athletes, do they have like classes or anything to like life after sports in general? Just because it's like you played football growing up, all you know is, football has a stigma of just jockeys and whatnot, and like don't go to class, but you seem like you went to class and probably made good grades. But but most people don't, Right, that's part of being a football player, and that's like they have the stigma for a reason. Mm-hmm. But for athletes that like don't do that, or like they're good at being a D lineman, but like they don't go to class, mm-hmm. And then switch into the real world after football, just at that point you're a nobody.
Right.
You start at the bottom again.
Yep.
And it's so hard to just deal with because you're used to being that guy, or like everybody know you and all this and that. Mm-hmm. So do they give like classes or anything like for that?
Yeah, at SMU, I believe it was my senior year that they started a program called Life After Ball, where it's funny, I was just having a conversation about this earlier today, but essentially what they do is they get people from the DFW Metroplex, from various industries, medical device sales, real estate, finance, you name it, and they have them come in to the football facilities, and everybody shares a little bit about what they do, and then they'll break out into meeting rooms, and whatever you're interested in, you can go talk to the person who spoke about that industry. That's how the program started, and like I said, I think that was my senior year. Now, Lisa Rollins, she's the leader of like the academic support center for sports. They do a really good job with their Life After Ball program, where I don't think it's monthly, maybe it's quarterly. They're doing Life After Ball events. They're trying to facilitate internships for current athletes who are, playing and during the summer, whatever, trying to get them job experience so people can figure out what they want to do. Because, man, for me personally, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not playing football, you still don't know what to do.
Right.
I mean, for him, he thought he wanted to be an engineer. Then he just changed his major, went to accounting.
Man, when I started college, pre-med was my track, and then I ended up switching to planning on going to the business school. Then I ended up getting my degree in economics, but I switched a lot of different times. And then when it came to actually get a job, people would say, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, I have no idea. The one thing that I knew was that I wanted to help people, but I had no idea in what capacity that would be, what it would look like. Would it be for a Fortune 500 or a startup, or would I be running my own business at that time? Like, I didn't know. I had no idea. I just knew the one thing, which is I wanted to help people. And I think, honestly, I can't speak for all the universities across the country, but I think if athletic departments are not facilitating conversations with former players, with people in those communities in different industries and professions, they are not setting their athletes up for success. Because y'all know this, like the percentage of Division I football players who go play in the NFL is like 1%. And then the percentage that make it past 3 years in the league is even smaller than that. And so at a certain point in time, you're not going to be a football player anymore. And if you have nothing to fall back on, then you're going to be in trouble. And it's like, people talk about, I ain't got no plan B, it's only plan A. It's like, nah, you're tripping. Like, you need to,
I mean,
At least think about it,
in
like
that specific context,
Yeah.
at least, like, you need to be
it can be
thinking
taken
about
away
it.
from you at any time.
Injury.
I mean, look at me.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I wouldn't have gone to the league, and I know that because of my height, and that's how it is. But I mean, it just got taken from me like that.
Yeah.
And you just never know when it's your last day.
Right. Yeah. So, it's not to say that you shouldn't go all in on pursuing that dream. But again, in this specific context, playing in the NFL, like, college football players specifically should be thinking about what would I do without football. Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And it's
Yeah.
cool too. Like all the people we've met recently, like a lot of us have had the same, similar journey, like playing sports in college, and then starting, something else, because it's like, yeah, you could, have a great job, get a good degree and stuff, but then there's still like kind of that sense of like, you're so used to just doing more than the average person, because you like, obviously everyone goes to school when you're in college, right? But then like playing sports collegiately, and then once you get out, it's like, all right, everyone is just working, right, to provide for themselves. But it's like, you're just so used to having something else there, and that's kind of like, at least for us too, that's kind of what like dabbled us into like, all right, how do we like do something that can like separate ourselves and then eventually like create this life or freedom that we all strive for, right? So I guess like I talked to you earlier about like what brought you to Austin and all that kind of stuff. But I guess since you've gotten here into Austin, and then you started, did you start the walk-on mentality when you moved here, or was that
No, that started
during COVID, right?
During COVID.
Okay, yeah.
back
So
in 2020.
once you moved here, what was like your direction on like, making content, collaborating, meeting people? Like, how's that been?
Man, honestly, I had no idea the kind of city this was when I moved here, specifically for collaboration and networking and content creation, which, like, I don't even really view myself necessarily as a content creator, which is funny, because I obviously put out content, but like, I think there's levels to it, just like anything else. But, when I moved to Austin, it was really kind of like, at that point in my life, I felt like God was saying, go get out of your comfort zone. Like, you've been in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex for 17 years. You grew up in South Lake. You went to school at SMU. Those places are 30 minutes apart. Now you live in Dallas, which is the same area that you went to college. All of your friends from high school have now moved back. Not that that's a bad thing, but like, all the people moved back. Your college friends are here too. Like, you might be kind of comfortable. You're doing really well at your job. Like, things are pretty comfortable. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, I think it's a good thing to be doing well, but it felt like God was saying like, hey, there's more for you. Like go explore a little bit. And it's funny too, because now that I'm saying it, there's been a couple times in my life where I've really felt this like hardcore push that like there's more. And so at the time it was either Austin or Denver, and I wanted to go somewhere that had more to do outside. And I had this image of Austin in my mind that was, you know, beautiful nature, places for me to run, cycle, whatever. And then I started dating my girlfriend who lived here. And so at that point in time, I was considering Austin or Denver. And when we started dating, I was like, I'm gonna go to Austin. And if she kicks me to the curb, then at least I moved and like went for it. And hopefully she doesn't kick me to the curb. And fortunately she hasn't yet. But came down here, and you know, it's so funny, dude, just how things happen. Like, you know, I get to the city, and I love to work out, like you mentioned. And there's all these different communities. Like there's running community. There's literally a different run club every day of the week. There's breakfast club, cycling club on Saturday. There's Collective, which Collective, I don't even know if it was open at the time, but like now you think of Collective, they've got the community workouts. You've got Squatch on the east side. They're doing community workouts. You got On It. They're doing community workouts. Like literally there is something tailored to fitness and connection pretty much every day, every weekend. And I came down, me and my girlfriend were very fortunate to be introduced to a group of phenomenal people. So we had good friends really quick. But at the same time, I was like, man, I'm trying to go meet people and like see what's up. And so I started going to all this stuff, like going to the run clubs, going to a supplement company called Bare Performance Nutrition. Had like they host these athletic clubs that they were doing. Like, so I'm just going to everything. And I'm meeting people. And I'm like, dang, there's a lot of dope people here. And then, you know, next thing I know, I'm linking up with Matt Choi, who's a friend of both of ours. And it's like, you know, we're on the track running. And at the time that I met Matt, he had like less than 20,000 followers. He was like pretty new in his content creation journey, so to speak. And he started like, you know, he was recording everything. And I'm like on his story, and people are following me, and I'm like, what is happening? And like, you know, again, it's like I don't really get wrapped up in that the vanity metrics, if you will. But it was interesting because I was like, again, kind of seeing like, oh, like there's actually a path in really just like doing what you love. And whether that be podcasting or running and recording yourself talking about your pace per mile, or doing a shoe review, or like literally you can make money doing whatever you want this day and age. And yeah, I feel like I connected with Matt. I connected with Austin at Collective. I had gone there one day, I think maybe with Matt, and I was in the bathroom after we worked out, and Austin was in there, and I was like, what's good, bro? Like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I run, you know, have a clothing company called Dreamer. Like, this is what it is. I'm like, oh my gosh, bro, that's dope. Like, I have this podcast about betting on yourself, taking risks. Like, you should come on it. Boom. Like, me and Austin have a connection and a relationship there. Like, and that just continued to snowball. Like, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, just how many dope people I've met who are doing impactful, meaningful stuff, who are trying to really like pursue their passion and fulfill a purpose with the work that they're doing. Like, you know, Austin specifically, it's like, yeah, the clothing is dope, but the fact that like, you know, whatever percentage of the profits all goes toward a specific charity, you know, per collection, raising money for underprivileged kids, you know. Just
the mindset behind the clothing.
Just like, man, like that is impactful work. Like connecting with you guys, like you, like Opinionated Media, and then what you want to do within that umbrella, like huge impact there. Matt, it's like, yeah, Matt records running content, but Matt's trying to educate people and promote like healthy living and longevity, and like give people tools that they can use to change their life. Like Dom Fusco, who recently moved here, like the dude just, his story is incredible. Like, he was creating a ton of running and fitness content, crushing it in that category, and, you know, went to the track on a Saturday morning to test out his mile time. Dude went into cardiac arrest at 25, like 26 years old. Died at the hospital came back to life, and now like is using his platform to, his big thing now is rebirth. And it's like, I could just list forever the number of people who I've met where it's like, man, like you're trying to do something really cool and it's special. And so, one thing that I've always wanted to do is like partner with brands that I rock or, clothing I wear, brands that I think are cool, and just work with cool people on like cool stuff. Honestly, is like as childish as that sounds, just from like a verbiage standpoint, like cool, using cool as the descriptor, like that's always been something I've wanted to do. And being in this city has afforded me the opportunity to work with brands like Kane, Good Wolf Provisions, which is a supplement company. I worked with BPM for a little bit just as an ambassador, but I love their supplements, like Rome, which is a men's apparel line. Like, I don't think it's by coincidence that after coming here, getting ingrained with the community, meeting people, trying to add value however I can, like all of a sudden there are some opportunities that are ultimately what I've wanted to do, which, it's a blessing really more than anything. And it's a fun journey, man. I'm continually thinking about the fact that the life we get to live is just so cool and full of opportunity. And again, like we can create whatever it is that we want to do, if we just decide to do it.
Yeah, man. So it's awesome just to hear like your connection with Austin, like the people you're meeting, all of this. And I guess with the walk-on mentality. So like, I remember we had talked and you were talking about maybe doing, some public speaking, some things like that. So I know you have the podcast. Talk to us a little bit more about like your newsletter and kind of the direction you're trying to go with that.
Yeah. So I'll just talk about the business as a whole.
Yeah.
So the name of the business is Walk-On Mentality Health. And when I actually like named it that, it was honestly just because I needed an LLC name and I was trying to figure out what to really call it. But now it makes so much sense that it's Walk-On Mentality Health, because to me, what I envision is like the epitome of health is like alignment in your physical, mental, spiritual, relationships, career, like holistic alignment across all of those pillars and those categories. And so Walk-On Mentality Health, the first thing is the coaching business. So I do one-to-one coaching. The second part of it is the podcast, which is the Walk-On Mentality podcast. Obviously, we've talked about what that is. For those of you listening, I interview, entrepreneurs, athletes, and other high performers on what the walk-on mentality means in their specific context. So really, again, the walk-on mentality is a mindset that there are no limits. So each of the people who come onto my show, they've bet on themselves in some capacity, and I give them a platform to share that story to hopefully inspire somebody else to bet on themselves. The weekly walk-on newsletter is a newsletter where I talk about entrepreneurship, fitness and health, the walk-on mentality, business, really anything that's on my mind. And again, like everything that I do is with the intent to help empower somebody else to go use what I'm sharing and apply it in their life. So it could even be, something that I've dealt with, where I learned a lesson, and then, hopefully I can pay that forward to somebody else. And then the public speaking, it's like looking for more opportunities to share the walk-on mentality. So I'm trying to remember when you and I had coffee, but I've now had 2 public speaking engagements. One was at a middle school in my hometown, and then the second one was at Tyler Junior College, which is obviously out in Tyler. I spoke to the football team about the walk-on mentality, and it was really cool because when I finished up, 3 kids on the team got awarded scholarship.
That's fire.
So incredible experience, man. And ultimately, like I keep saying, it's like I feel like I was put on this earth to, I always use the language impact, inspire, empower. But I really do feel like I was put here to empower people to go push past their limits, because, so many of us limit ourselves in what we think is possible, and ultimately what you think is possible for you is 100% possible for you. If you don't think you can do something, then you're right. And if you think you can do it and you're willing to put the work in, then you're also right. So yeah, my mission is to push people to go maximize their full potential. And I think when I think back to my experience as a football player too, like as a team captain, it was always, how do I lift the people around me up? Which is why I think I'm also drawn to this purpose and this profession of like, how do I lift other people up and help other people be the best that they can be? So yeah, that's the walk on mentality, man.
Oh yeah.
That's fire. What even got you started to like even do that? Do just content, podcast,
Yeah.
wanted to speak? Like where'd that even all come from?
Yeah, so I started my career in human resources, and I thought that was going to be kind of the fulfilling thing and be kind of it, so to speak, because the human resource function in business is a people support function. So I was like, boom, this is going to be perfect. And the career journey has been HR, operations, sales, and I've learned so much at each of those jobs. But what I've always really lacked is this impactful, meaningful, fulfilling work. And so that's what ultimately led me away from that. But it was once COVID hit, I was like, man, how do I positively impact people through this kind of dark time? Like, what can I do to add value to people when people aren't working, gyms are shut down? Like, it was kind of a dark time. And so really it's funny how it all started was I started putting out content that was like at-home workouts. And for me, there's value in that, obviously, but mental health to me is the most important thing, even above physical health. And I say that because there's been times in my life where I've been incredibly physically fit, healthy, looked very good, but mentally down bad. And so, yeah, you can be physically fit, but that doesn't mean you're healthy. And so COVID times, it was very much like a fitness focus, but it shifted because I was like, okay, this isn't really about lifting weights or doing push-ups or burpees or squats. Like, this is about the mind and channeling the power of the mind. Like we were talking about earlier, the mind is so powerful. How can we use our minds to get through any situation that we face? Because like you said, Cam, like inevitably there's ups and downs in life, and having a strong mind, willpower, the right mindset, the right view on the situation, like that's going to help you get through those tough times. So I think the original question was, how did I kind of land on this walk-on mentality? Yeah, it's evolved over the years because it's always kind of been a search for how can I really add more value. And so it started as just the podcast. And then, like I mentioned to you, I had a mental performance coach in college that was tremendously impactful for me. And so I was like, okay, wait a second. How do I take that skill set and then help people with that specific thing in my own way? And then the newsletter is just another kind of creative outlet, another way for me to reach people. Not everybody wants to listen to a podcast. Some people want a bite size. I can read it in 3 minutes and move on. And then really public speaking is just one of those things where it's like, I kind of want to try that.
Yeah.
And I think, people talk about learning, continuous learning, trying new things. I think ultimately in my own journey, the only way that I've figured out what I want to do is by trying stuff and seeing what I liked and seeing what I didn't like. And I think that, anybody can take that approach. It's like the same thing with podcasting. It's like, do you like to have a co-host situation? Do you want to do solo episodes? Do you want to do a 5-person episode? Like, y'all would have never been able to have, the round table, that's what you called it, right? The round table. Y'all would have never had the round table if you didn't say, well, what would happen if we had all of us in here talking? Yeah. So, the only way that we can figure out what we like, what we don't like, what we want to do, what we don't want to do is actually just by doing the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I tell my girlfriend all the time. And has to do with food, but it's the same concept. I'm like, you're not going to know until you try.
Right. Yeah. She's a picky eater.
Very.
And he used to be bad.
I used to be bad.
And I was like, you got to get out of that because, bro, there's so much good food, cuisine, like, and then that just, like you said, just relates to life. Like, anything you try, like you dabble into something, it's like, all right, I might not like it fully, but it's like I can take little bits and pieces and add it to like my life, and then share it with people and whatnot. And
right.
So that's cool. I'm trying to think. What are some, like, just kind of off topic, what are some of like the things you like to do here since you moved here?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, man, I love to be outside. So most of the time you can find me running around Lady Bird Lake, cycling through the hills in West Austin. My girlfriend and I, and specifically she, is a foodie. So
Okay, that's fire.
we love good food. There's a lot of really, really good food around Austin. So always find us at a good restaurant. And then, like I mentioned too, we've got some great friends. So kicking it with some friends. Love a good coffee shop. Like I'm super,
Yeah,
I'm
that
super
place we
chill,
went to
low
is-
key.
yeah.
Where'd y'all go?
We went to Manana.
Manana?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And it's right downtown.
Yeah.
Like it's right in the mix. Good vibes, good people work there too. Shout out Jordan. But yeah, like a lot of time you can find me outside. And that's really it, man. Like I mentioned, I'm not big into the turn up too much. Like I had that phase.
Yeah.
It was fun while it lasted.
That's kind of where
but
I'm at too.
Now,
Yeah.
Now I'm like, let me get in bed.
Yeah. Get on my grind and shit. Cause I mean, just now it's like we're so in deep with this, and then meeting the people we're meeting, and like getting anxious about getting into the studio, and then from there, like we're just gonna be there all the time, busy making content there on the weekend, like making more content because we never had something like that. So it's like I'm just trying to mentally prepare. And that was kind of like off topic, like why I got into 75 hard is because
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
I guess it's more so like a disciplinary thing. Like I don't lack the discipline, but for me it was more so like, let me kind of get in this mindset of just like saying no more. Like now I can't do that because I'm not going to go out to not drink. Like I'm not going to just stand there, you know what I mean? So like just trying to like get that.
Well, that's because that's what I do. That's what.
Yeah, I know, but even then, like you like, I mean, hey, you should know, you know, I had a couple of shots.
That was not that was not because of me.
Yeah,
But I had no choice.
But yeah, I mean, just trying to be more focused, and like I think for me, just like join the collective last year, and then because that was something like stepping out of your comfort zone, like you were talking about, you know, going to networking events, and that was something like me and Carlos really weren't the best at doing, because we had already built up our network, but it was a lot of like mutual stuff or whatever.
Right.
But last year, I think, is really when we both kind of went out our comfort zone, like. It kind of really all started around the same time. I joined the collective, meet people there, and then like 2 months later, have you met Matt Worthington yet or no?
I haven't met him. No, I've heard the name a lot.
Yeah, so he has like a networking event called Riser, and we're actually gonna have a booth October 18th there. So if you want to slide by,
pull up.
Yeah, but he like invited us onto his podcast, and then we were you know, kind of not really closed minded, but we didn't really know that there was a lot of people our age or around our age doing similar stuff. We get on his podcast, and then like we meet him, and it's like, whoa, like we're kind of mind blown that like there's other people trying to build community, trying to like build networking and like change the norm, because everyone's doing so much stuff. Everyone's doing some cool stuff.
Right.
And then from there, it's just kind of compounded. And then just to go back, because I'm rambling a little bit, to go back to like 75 hard and all that stuff, I think that's just all just kind of been a compounding thing. Like I think for me and him, both our focus has just been like super sharpened and heightened, and then like just meeting people like you, sharing these stories, learning, and then helping each other out. Because I mean, a lot of times you don't want to be that person. You meet somebody, it's like, oh, you know, I got it out the mud on my own, right? Like it's all the connections and the working, like it's all very impactful, and you know, it's super cool to just meet other people that are doing similar stuff.
Yeah, man. So two things come to mind. One, you know, you just said it. It's like you got out of your comfort zone. You started going to these events, and you got a good result. And it was consistency compounding. Like again, across the board, consistency compounds. The other thing, man, is like, and I've experienced this myself. It's like all the success in the world is irrelevant if you aren't doing it with people you love, and if you can't share the wins with people you love, like. Y'all been boys for a minute, and y'all are building this dope platform together. Like, yeah, you can do it by yourself, but like, there's something to be said for, you know, having people around you that you're either doing it with or that are really close to you, really like supporting you. Doing stuff alone it's not it, in my opinion.
No.
So
Gotta have a team.
You gotta have a team, because you're just spread so thin. Like within our team, there's people that are just better at the stuff than we are, and vice versa. And it's like, you got to know where your strengths are, so everyone can like, there's no like weak links, because like something's kind of lacking in the area.
Right.
So
Another big thing too is just bouncing ideas off of each other. Everybody just has their own mind, and they see stuff differently. So just like, you can have an idea, but then somebody else see about, oh, that's a dope idea. What if we also did this as well?
Right.
That's the other good thing about having a team.
Yeah. Facts.
I mean, that's kind of it
Yeah.
for me. I mean, that was dope having you on. I don't know.
Yeah. Any questions you have for us?
Nah, man. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Y'all did a phenomenal job. It's always funny being on the interviewee end of the podcast. It's like I'm sitting here wanting to ask y'all questions.
No, for sure.
But it's like,
I mean, if you have questions for us, you can ask
Yeah,
them. We're always open.
And we're always down because we've been talking about getting on more people's
Yeah,
pods. So
I told them last week, I was like,
whenever.
bro, we need to get on more people's pods,
Yeah.
man, because it's not hard, but it's like hard, like always just being the interviewer.
And then when you finally get on the other end, like
refreshing.
Yeah, for sure.
it's a lot better. So
Yeah.
no, definitely.
yeah. We'll get it on the books. We've been talking about it for a minute.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
We'll do something.
no, but really just thank you guys for having me.
I appreciate you
yeah, it's
taking
been
time out
fun.
today. Yeah, it was dope hearing your story. Great individual. You got a good head on
Appreciate
your
it.
shoulders. And it's always nice to have people like that on the pod. And it's we've been blessed to have a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
We've been very blessed. So thank you taking time out your day. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. That's it from us. So if you guys want to check out Jackson, you can find him everywhere at Jackson Mitchell on Instagram, walkonmentality.co. I was looking at your
Yeah,
website.
so Jackson R. Mitchell
Okay.
on IG, and then the Walk On Mentality on IG for the actual podcast page. And then my website is www.walkonmentality.co, not .com.
That .com
Yeah,
is
we're
expensive.
We're not co as well. Yeah, we're not co as well.
Hey, that extra
Yeah.
M is expensive.
Yeah.
So y'all check me out.
That's crazy. When we first did a website, like you were probably the same way. It's like, what the hell?
Bro.
Bro,
Yeah,
I didn't
just
know
looking
there
at-
were. I
looking
mean,
at
obviously we knew there was different websites, but
like the price differential.
the
Right.
different dot whatever. But like,
Mine was taken. Like the Walk On Mentality website, like walkonmentality.com, it just says the domain is unavailable, but there's not a website that exists on it, so I don't even know how you would get it. And then the walkonmentality.com is taken, so I just was like, .co it is. It's funny though, because now I'm like, man, I wish I would have done maybe like .io, because when I tell people my email is Jackson at walkonmentality.co, a lot of times they think I meant .com, so they're emailing the wrong thing. But
does IO
we'll
stand
weather the
for?
storm. It's just, I actually don't know what it stands for, but it's just another like
Another
domain.
domain thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, if you guys want to check him out, he puts out a lot of good content, good episodes, newsletter. If you're into fitness and stuff, I'm pretty sure he's down to work out with you. We've actually been talking about getting some working out in too, because I've been wanting to get into running a little bit more. So I'm like, all right, I need to start running.
Come on.
But I need to ease into. I think I could run like 3 miles easy off rip, to be honest. But it's just like, it's intimidating because I'm a sprinter nat by trade. So it's like, shit, going to run 3 miles. I don't know. But
It's the start that stops most people, bro.
yeah, no, for sure. So
One foot in front of the other.
so definitely just gotta get
one
out
last
there.
thing, advice you want to give to people wanting to start a fitness journey in general, or want to start running, or
Yeah.
want to start eating better.
Man, I really would say, like I just said to Cam, like it's the start that stops most people. And a lot of times with starting a new thing, whether it's a business, your fitness journey, running, nutrition, the reason that you're hesitant to change is because there's a certain level of fear associated with something different or the unknown. And it's really funny you ask, because I wrote about this today. Like, one of the most like baseline functions of the brain is to keep us safe, and the brain can't differentiate a saber-toothed tiger attack from like cooking rice if you've never cooked it before, or cooking a vegetable that you've never cooked before. The brain just thinks like, oh, that's not safe, so I need to stay away from that. And so knowing that your brain is just trying to keep you safe, and then having the ability to say like, there's actually really not anything that I need to worry about in this context, and just doing it, like you'll see, oh wow, I made that way worse in my mind than it actually turned out to be. And so it's the start that stops most people. Just take that first step. Like, you don't have to go run a mile. You can go run a quarter mile. You can run a 1/10 of a mile. You can alternate running and walking. Like, you know, don't expect perfection on your first attempt, but make the attempt, and after that, just keep going.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, make sure you guys go follow him on all his platforms. Show him love. He's family. Just stole Carl's line. But yeah, that'll do it for you guys over here at Opinionated. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.
Peace.